Oh, wow.
Yeah, they started putting they really want to make sure
Well,
that everybody's cool with it being recorded.
they
So
really want to make sure
Sure.
that people stop masturbating before the recording starts.
Ew.
I want that to be the like, this meeting is being recorded. Put your pants on.
Right? Put that shit up.
yeah, so I've never been on the other end of this yet, but I'm under the impression that there's a thing that everybody has to click to like consent. Is everybody
Mhm.
okay? Yeah, the my Sunday game started with that, and we were all surprised by it. And I was like, "Gee, guys, how many conversations that are being recorded this week do you think start with discussing that announcement?"
Right.
uh, but yeah, it's a nifty little feature. Uh, okay, so um, I think, like I said, I think we're gonna jump around just a little bit, but we are gonna start out the last session. We had ended on Frankie talking to Mr. Tristram, and he had been describing the source of the supernatural and all of the permutations of the magical energy throughout the town. Um, and according to him, at least, there is some sort of incredibly powerful, potent entity, uh, like under the town or otherwise locked in the vicinity of the town, and that all of the supernatural creatures are, in effect, the bubbling up of energy from that and taking different forms, with himself and Frankie being examples of pure energy that had not been filtered through any of the archetypes. And Frankie had, as we were talking about before the session started, Frankie had asked them if he thought that this thing can be controlled. Um, and we had just like done a hard cut there. So we're going to go ahead and start with a stinger scene right there, picking up right at that moment. The camera would capture like the recap would end with Frankie asking that question, and then we would jump into the episode itself, where the camera would pan around the room, showing the mirrors, and pointing out the somewhat amorphous quality to both Tristram and Frankie in the mirrors. Um, and then it would scan over all of the weapons that are laying about, before finally, and like throughout all of this, there is a silence, um, as if in contemplation, before we finally the camera finally goes back to Frankie and Tristram. And in rather keeping fashion with the things that he had said before, and we noted the biases that he seems to feel about this. He looks down at Frankie with and there's a degree of disgust on his face, um, as he says, "Control it? We're barely going to be able to destroy it. How could we control it?"
Interesting point.
And like he like his I assume that's what Frankie says.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so Tristram um is actually, he is so accustomed to dealing with the like more defined permutations of this energy that he is completely not sure what to do with a fellow hollow. And particularly the apparent obliviousness that Frankie just broadcasts everywhere. The like the fact that this is an interesting point rather than a given, uh, but that it's so nonchalantly an interesting point. Um, he's just going to stand there for a moment. And does Frankie do anything else?
She'll just kind of look at him for a moment and go, I'm going to go find my friend and head out of the office.
Sure. Okay. Well, in that case, as you leave, the camera would linger in Tristram's office, and we would see, he would go and not sit in the chair at his desk, but sit at his desk and look into the mirror, and the camera would zoom into the infinity before doing a hard cut, which will take us to another probably shorter scene. Caulan, you had previously left to go talk to your father about some of your thoughts.
Yeah.
So the main meeting room, I described it previously as most of the wolf pack is there, and only there are the range between members of the pack who are essentially feral versus members of the pack who have a more conventional presentation. There's you've met some of the more conventional ones, but it's a fair number of these people are completely new to you.
Sure.
And we'd earlier noted that there wasn't really any distinction in terms of who was kind to you. The ferals were just as courteous and empathetic towards your situation. And in fact, less likely to use trite phrases.
Sure, more yips.
Yeah. But yes. But they've all kind of been talking. When you had last left, they had been kind of talking about your experiences with Red Jack, and taking him on single-handed. And so there's a couple of them they're still with your father and are talking with him about that. And basically, it's kind of devolved into war stories, because nobody wants to focus on the reason why they're there.
Right. Because some got a sex story stolen. Yeah.
Right. Super awkward. But yeah, that's I described before that the room is something like a hunting lodge meets an AA meeting.
Sure.
With stale food and snacks and coffee on a folding table by the doors.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of folding chairs and a projector that is 10 to 15 years old at the least, that they still have problems getting up and running.
Okay.
But yeah, everybody's just kind of milling about.
Well, I will walk right up to him with purpose, and I assume he's in the middle of listening to somebody's war story.
Yeah.
And I will grab his arm just a little, in that way when you want to take somebody aside.
Sure.
And I'll say, "Excuse me, one moment," and to the people talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of take him aside for a moment, and be like, "So, that Tristram guy, you're on board with this shit? That's the goal, being to kill everything weird and and that's just what we're gonna do. That's the goal.
And first of all, to add a little flavor, when you go up to him to grab his arm, he responds with, "Oh, the man of the hour,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
before being dragged off.
One moment, please.
Because again, like hiding one's discomfort in something that they're nominally proud of is a
Sure.
thing. But yeah, so when you ask him about that, he like pauses for a moment, like killing everything. No, that's not what we're about.
But he calls it corruption, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're one of the weird things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in his mind, we're corruption, right? And
Like he's seeing where you're going with this, and he kind of like tries to step in and go, well, our duty throughout the history of this town is to protect it from the other things that go bump in the night.
like him.
He's also helping protect the town.
Oh, right, because he's purifying the town, as he put it. Hey, that I know that like L is like really old, right? And I get that. Um, how old are you? Are you like are you like around his age, and this has just been around for? Or are you like 40? I I I I don't know if I've ever really nailed that down, and it seems important in the moment.
Sure. Are you asking him in character?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
just
Uh,
like that.
um, and that's an interesting world building question. Do you? I
I'll explain my reasoning. I'll
Mhm.
explain my reasoning so you can be easier to build the world you want.
Sure.
My reasoning is anybody who was born 40 years ago
Mhm.
would understand the example of the Nazis really well and have a shared cultural whatever about it.
Sure.
But anybody born, say, 100 years ago, purification is a normal concept. The idea that we would like purify a populace didn't become taboo really until the Nazis were our worst enemy. And like even then there are very racist parts of the country that would have been like, I mean, yeah, they did it wrong. So I kind of want to know where his frame of reference is from time wise so that I can figure out, so that I can explain this in the appropriate ways.
Okay. And one of the weirdest parts about when my video cuts out like that is suddenly like the webcam, I have to like reposition. It like
Sure.
goes up for some reason. But
Are you
okay.
able to hear the audio during that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm still fully connected.
Sure.
Okay. So since that's the way that you're approaching the question, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that he is, maybe 60. Like he's a little older than he looks, but he's not at L's level.
Okay. And this is taking place 2021 or whatever, 2020?
Yeah.
Okay, so that puts him at like 1960. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, no, that's perfect. That's perfect for a reference. Okay. Let me be like, okay. So he's using the words like purify the area and shit, right? I mean, he just did. He literally just called me us corruption. And like people who defend the realm by purifying it have a terrible history of it. Like, I don't. I mean, I don't want to call you Nazis, But all I'm saying is that guy has a little too much Adolf in him. His mustache is a little too short. All right, and like I just spent 15 minutes in the room with him, and he's a damn good speaker, but I'm pretty sure he wants to.
Okay, and, like while you're saying that, he will grab you by the shirt and start pulling you out of the room.
Okay. That's why I pulled him aside. It was to be like, are we sure we're not Klansmen?
but yeah, like you know, you pulled him aside, but like there's a degree of like social convention and like, oh, they're going aside, so you know, it's like that's they don't want to be overheard. That
right.
But you're in a room full of fucking werewolves,
right?
So maybe you want to go farther away for this conversation.
That makes sense. I'll be the baddies.
I mean, I would say probably half to 3/4 of them have the heightened senses ability.
Right. Caulan's not a smart man.
Sure. So yeah, he grabs you by the shirt and is like moving quite quickly in a something of a departure from the kind of masking pride he was using earlier, and like takes you outside.
Sure.
And causing a little bit of a scene in the process.
Yeah.
Because people see this.
Yeah.
And like, what the hell are you trying to say?
Hear me out. So, I've got some friends. One of them seems to be like him. One of them seems to have some more witchy vibe to her. Another one seems real in touch with nature. And all of them are corrupt by his perspective. All of them are corruptions and unpure. When has somebody called a group of the population unpure and needing to be cleansed not been the bad guy? Now, I agree the town needs protection and we need to figure out what the fuck's going on and do it. But are you sure this is the guy? And are you sure he's not gonna, once he's done with that, turn on us as members of the corruption?
He like as you're saying that, he pauses, like he like. So you've got friends that are supernatural, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that Tristram and the huntsman, do you think that they don't know about your friends?
No, I think they do, and I'm not sure if my friends are safe.
Has anything happened to your friends so far? No, nothing has happened to your friends because they're not a danger to the city.
Some stuff has definitely happened to my friends. And I don't know if you know, but earlier today, people were shooting at us. There was a guy with a big axe running at us with the big axe, destroying
That's because your dumb teenage ass was trespassing in a dangerous location.
Oh no, call the entire fucking werewolf army. There are teenagers in a school. You see that this might be a little fucked up?
They were hunting a very, very dangerous entity, and you stumbled into the trap.
Did they kill a dangerous entity, or did they just try to murder a couple of teenagers? Now, I don't have the answers. No. All I'm saying is I spent 15 minutes in the room with a charismatic individual who's talking about cleansing the population. and called us corruptions. I'm not saying we got to do anything right this second, but I do know that I don't trust him far enough to fucking spit, and you shouldn't either, and we should know who the fuck has been investigating the murder, because these guys do not seem very interested in finding out the answers. They seem a whole lot more interested in killing anything that seems wrong to them. Different, weird, like us.
And at that moment, it's about this time, Frankie, that you would be going into the most likely place to find Caulan. And it's as Caulan is saying that a van has pulled into the parking area. Like it had been doing that during the conversation, but it's not until Caulan says that we see the figures walking from it towards the compound itself. And once again, Caulan has managed to find him outside just as somebody arrives. And sure enough, it is the wards.
Oh, not just one of them?
No, it's both of them.
Oh goodness. 2 vampires get out of a car.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I've described David and Duke Ward in the past. And the difference right now is that, like, there is an anger on David's face, the mayor of the town. Wait, no, that's not right. I'm getting in any case, scratch that. But in any case, there is an anger on David's face as he is kind of.
Colin's not funny enough and clever enough to think of this,
Mm-hmm.
but if he was just a little more wisecracky, I'd have him be like, "Oh, hey, look, David and Duke came to the party. Woo! That's unexpected."
But yeah, like David has this highly agitated look on his face and is pushing Duke forward. And Duke is earlier in the day, he had the appearance of like a little bit of liveliness, a little bit of hunger. And right now, the single best way I could think of to describe him is an addict that's going through withdrawal. He seems gaunt, like from what you saw earlier to where he is now. He seems gaunter than, like, the degree to which he's gaunter seems, like it shouldn't have happened that fast. And he has kind of a glazed look on his face as they're walking forward. And as they get closer, you notice that Duke's hands are tied.
Okay.
He's being marched forward, and he's not fighting a whole lot. He's just, occasionally moving slower than David wants him to. And as they get close enough to recognize Caulan and his father, but more so Caulan, David, who was the one watching the videos, comments, "Oh, look, it's a little fucking pervert. Come on, let's get the show on the road."
He would not have any frame of reference that he's talking about the sex toys. All right. Colin just looked quizzically, like, look at his dad, look back. What is he talking about?
Sure. And they continue walking.
If he was smarter, He was smarter. And again, if he was like the Xander of comebacks, I'd have been like, "Oh, you call me a pervert? I've seen what was in the box." But he's just not quite there.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, you and your father are left standing there in the frigid cold.
In the box.
What's
Sorry. Just I've smelled what was in the box.
Oh, yes, you have. With werewolf senses, nonetheless.
Right.
So, but yeah. By default, the words go in, and Caulan and his father are left there. Does Caulan have a final action for that scene?
Fucking whatever. More answers to come, right? More answers to come. Just think about it, and I'll walk in.
Sure. The last words that your father will say is to like before you both go in, he's going to he is going to give a slight rebuttal, which is to say that the hounds and the huntsmen existed before Tristram, will exist after him.
Yeah, so did Germany.
And that's where we cut.
Right.
Okay, cool. And with that, we're gonna jump over to Devil's Rock. And a quick refresher on what was going on there. Andi, Cordelia, and Andy's father, of all people, had pulled up in Andy's father's car into this scene off of Devil's Rock that just violent winds shaking everything. Caulan's father had given, or not Caulan's father, Andy's father had given Andi and Cordelia little glow sticks to break if they needed them. Need the light, and has encouraged he's right here if you need him. And then Andi and Cordelia had gone into the woods to I described Devil's Rock as this slanting huge thing, but if you approach it from one direction, you can kind of walk up the slant. While they had been walking through the woods to get to that access point, they had noticed quite perceptively. You both did fairly well with your rolls to see what was going on, and they had realized that the trees were oozing with blood, and that there was a sizzling sound when Andi stepped in the bloody from the boots that Andi was wearing. And you both had come to the realization that there was an ephemeral, dangerous fae that was just kind of existing ambiently throughout the woods. And specifically the Red Jack was there, and that he was hungry, that he was waiting. When they got close to the edge of the trees, the influence of Red Jack kind of tapered off, and what they found was a scene where the violent winds had stopped, and there were 5 figures. Towards the far end of Devil's Rock, there was Abby, and there was, I believe his name was Zach, the jock that we met during one of the first episodes, with Zach being crumpled and apparently dead by Abby's side. The cause is not immediately apparent. Abby is standing and looks quite distressed. Between Andi and Cordelia are three figures. One that Cordelia recognizes as a younger member of the Morningstar family, and two people who appear to be assistants or guards, or they're there as subordinates to Elise Morningstar. And we had last left off with you, with both of you kind of standing just inside of the tree line and getting a feel for what was going on. So first of all, Cordelia, you recognize the figure as Elise Morningstar. She's one of the younger members of the family, and like the Morningstars and the Goods have had a long-standing feud that goes way back and led to the Morningstars leaving town. And a big part of all of this is them trying to get back into town. She's young enough, like if Cordelia were to go into Morningstar territory, like it's not like the dogs would be set on you. You're young, like yeah, you're somebody to pay attention to, but you're not necessarily a combatant in whatever degree of combat this entails. Elise is kind of in that same category. She's older than Cordelia, but she's still young enough that she's considered relatively innocent of the family blood. So she's come to Locksvale a couple of times, and that irony of having that kind of permissiveness also makes her a person to be an intermediary, which means that it's not long before she is neck deep in the feud and can no longer serve that function. But for now, that's who she is, or who she's been recently. So I have a question for you, Cordelia. Cordelia would have had opportunities to have met her. How well do you think Cordelia knows Elise?
How old is she? You said she's a younger one?
Yeah, she's like 20.
Okay, so she's older than Cordelia. So.
Yeah, she's like 20, 21, something like that. Like she's in that age range that we had established that in the very first episode that Cordelia goes to parties with people who are old enough to buy liquor.
Yeah.
So she's in that kind of age range. She's older, but it's conceivable that she would go to similar parties.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would think she probably doesn't know her super well, but knows her well enough from that.
Okay. So no personal details, but right. Recognize on sight easily. Yeah. And might even know something about personality traits or what kind of groups she might hang with.
Yeah.
The sort of information that you can glean from across the party.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I have a brief description because there are parts of these that I wanted to get the wording right, because there's potential. I wanted to be a little bit more on point with it. So from where you guys are standing at the tree line, and again, remember, you both rolled incredibly well for your gaze into the abyss, and that will taper off pretty soon here, and we'll need to roll again as the situation changes. But in terms of understanding what's going on, you guys are still top tier. Mm-hmm. So Elise and Abby are yelling back and forth, and neither one seems to completely have control of the situation, but the stakes look nothing short of lethal. Elise has the composure of someone who is acting like an authority but is new to it and desperate to disprove their own imposter syndrome. Her desperation is to keep the lid on a situation that is nearly uncontrollable. Abby has the composure of a trapped and wounded animal. Her desperation is boiling over and growing more volatile as each second marks a growing resolve. The two mooks next to Elise are older than her, but are clearly subordinate. Elise is yelling at Abby and says, "Come back with us, Abby. I know you're thinking about using your last wish to kill us, but we both know you're not going to do it because you know that you're one wish away from being in Big Red's court. And you're more afraid of him than you are of us. And it's not like you have any other alternatives out here. So quit acting out and start acting gracious." Abby spits back with all the righteousness of someone about to do something prodigiously stupid. And the line that she says is, and this is the end of the cutscene, and you guys have an opportunity to decide to what degree you want to engage and how. If you do, the last thing that Abby spits back, quite angrily at Elise, is, "At least Red Jack keeps his promises."
Oh.
And with that, the table is open. Neither party seems to be aware of your presence. Red Jack knows that you're there, but whatever it is that, like, you kind of get the impression that that thing that Red Jack was waiting for, hungrily, is for Abby to apparently use this last wish in self-defense.
Damn. Andy has a thing that can get them out of it, but Andy doesn't know that they can do it.
Right. And you can always gaze into the abyss to gain like an intuitive awareness. But yeah, so that's the situation that you guys have at hand. Red Jack very, very much knows that you're there, but he knows that you're there in the way that a dog might know that there are fleas or ticks on it. At the moment, there is something much more interesting in front of him.
Would my pendant from the Amati's court interfere with that at all?
Not,
or at least kind of keep us on the level that we're already at.
Essentially what that would do is that he would not be in a position to attack you. Essentially it's less a like hard magic item, and
I
more
didn't think it was too much, but
more a soft promise that anything you do to this person, you are doing to a member of Amati's court, and the repercussions will be equitable. Which, by and large, like, unless there's a specific reason to pick that fight, like, most of the Fae in the area will not pick that fight. No.
So we heard that whole thing that Elise just said about her using her last wish.
Yeah.
Right? We heard all of that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where if anybody sat and thought about it with, too much attention to detail, it'd be like, the camera captures them saying that because the camera gets close to them. The fact that Andi and Cordelia were able to hear it in a comprehensive way is more just, kind of like fudging of cinema. Mixed with the game mechanic being, how strongly on top of your gaze into the abyss rolls you were.
Yeah. Did we just lose Linda?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
Well, she's getting back on. We're going to grab a drink.
Go for it.
She left.
Yeah, would you like something?
Sounds like a good time to use the bathroom.
Yeah. We're having a short break. I will pause the recording.
Oh, wait, I should have said this before I started recording.
Oh.
Speaking of preparing yourself emotionally.
So yeah, where we left off with was the floor was up for Andi and Cordelia. I had been describing how in game the rationale for you guys hearing that entire exchange was your very high gaze into the abyss. Technically, I had previously described how the violent winds were at a standstill in this area, so it's also a little bit easier for sound to travel than it would have been during if you were in the windy parts of the storm. But mostly, you know, it'd be camera magic where the camera shows us the scene and then cuts to you guys with you apparently comprehending it and just, you know, letting it roll without too much too much worry.
So when she says that about what she call him, the red one, is that what she called him?
Big. I at least referred to him as Big Red.
Big Red.
Mm-hmm.
So Cordelia is going to kind of like, Cordelia doesn't really know about Red Jack, right?
Well,
no, I was there when
You were there when
I wasn't there, but I was watching.
She was watching.
you were watching it, and also as a member of the Good Clan,
You would know
who
about it.
yeah, primarily the Good Clan has historically acted as kind of intermediaries between the forces in the woods and the humans, and Red Jack is kind of a big deal.
Okay.
So if you have a question about Red Jack, there is a high probability that your character would know an answer, if not the answer.
Well, I guess what I was just gonna say is I feel like Cordelia would, like, even though we don't necessarily want to give ourselves away since they haven't noticed us yet, I feel like she would know enough to not let Abby do that stupid thing. But I'm gonna say if she wouldn't know enough, then maybe she'd ask Andi, like, do you know about this? But
Yeah.
if she knows, yeah. So I don't know how I want to do that.
I believe in the very first session, one of the things, like maybe even like it was like the very like first scene with the character, we had described Cordelia going down a list of names of people who had made deals with local spirits and the names of local spirits.
Okay.
So it has been established from the very first scene that Cordelia's grandmother has taught Cordelia on this subject matter.
Right.
Right down to the minutia of the magical equivalent of so and so begot so and so begot so and so begot so and so.
Right.
So you know this. And in essence, one of the things that is not uncommon in the Fae politics, but that Red Jack is particularly fond of, is for a mundane person,
Mm-hmm.
he will make a deal. And
Mm-hmm.
in essence, this deal is he will grant a wish.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of two things happens. He'll ask you for a task that you should complete. If you complete that task, then you can ask for another wish.
Okay.
If you don't complete the task and you don't ask for another wish, you're kind of in this limbo.
Sure.
But if you ask for a wish without having completed the task, you are basically signed up.
Okay.
You know, like not quite literally signing away your soul to the devil, but not entirely inaccurate either.
Okay.
Yeah, and in true Fae/devil fashion for Red Jack, it's one of those things where if the wishes are small and reasonable, the tasks will start out small and reasonable,
Right.
and rapport will build until. And so this scenario is perfectly in line with Red Jack's interests, because he would love nothing more than for Abby to wish for him to take care of these morning stars,
Right.
because that
Should be a big wish.
that would be fun for him.
Yeah.
And he would also get Abby out of the deal. Just win-win all around for him.
Right.
I mean,
What was the last thing Abby said? She didn't do it yet, right?
Yeah, no. She said at least Red Jack keeps his promises. Andy, you were saying something.
oh, I was just gonna be like, well, in some ways, like the Morning Stars and the Goods have been at it for a while, but in other ways, like letting your classmates sell their soul to this dude that none of us like, yeah, not so much.
Yeah, no. So Cordelia's just gonna take a step forward and say, Abby, no.
Sure.
I think that's gonna prompt a little bit of like panic on Andy's end, and like that seems like a natural segue for Andy to roll Gaze into the Abyss.
Sure. Okay. We will have 2 rolls coming up with that. I think I'll resolve the Gaze into the Abyss roll first. We'll roll it, and I'll either we'll see how that plays out, and then Cordelia, I think this is going to be the one of 2 things: either keeping your cool or shutting someone down.
What does shutting someone down use? Do they both use cold?
Roll cold. On a 10+, choose 1. On a 7 through 9, choose 1, but you come across poorly.
Either way, it's rolling cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So first, go ahead.
Not that it matters, but I guess I would say, in my mind, it would be the roll to shut her down, but that doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, the way the mechanics play out, they definitely vary. And the intent behind it, it also plays a part. Like in this context, one of the differences would be shutting someone down would be like very, very Abby specific, whereas keeping your cool would be very Cordelia specific.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, so let's do the Gaze into the Abyss.
Does Cordelia still have a string on Abby?
I do.
Oh, that is a gift from the first session.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a good. And just as a reminder, when you pull strings, you choose someone, tempt them to do what you want. They gain EXP if they accept. Give them a condition. Add 1 to a roll against them, or add 1 to harm against them. So you would theoretically even be able to just spin the string to convince her not to.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you might be able to get away with not rolling cool or cold.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay. So for Gaze into the Abyss, Andy, name what you're looking for and roll dark. What is Andy?
Anything that will help the situation. Like I think that Andy's like superficial intent was to be like, okay, Dad said break these things in case of help, or to whatever, but he can't see why like having something light up would help. So he's just like anything that would help get them out of there or calm calm people down, or
Sure.
because he knows that Red Jack is bad news.
Mm-hmm.
He spent, half of the campaign being slowly driven insane by the noise that Red Jack was making. So,
Yes, that's fair. Okay. So you're looking for something that can, like, your question is, like, what around here can help?
right.
Okay. And you have a dark of -1?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think I ever modified that.
Okay, so it's a 9 on the die, which puts us at a 7. So the 7 through 9, the abyss, or that puts us
No, it
at
would
an
be
8.
put us at an 8, but it's still in the same range.
Yeah. So on a 7 through 9, the abyss shows you confusing and alarming visions, but you get your answer nonetheless. So there are a couple of things that kind of parade through Andy's vision, and you take because you get a 7 through 9, you don't take 1 4 when addressing them. Never mind. So, and the things that Andy experiences are not necessarily limited to what I'm about to describe. I'm just going to put a couple on the table, and then after I do that, we'll jump to Cordelia and resolve that. So the first thing, and the theme here is that as Andy is looking around in something of a panic, Andy, you're reminded of when you were in Mr. Amati's Fae space, his otherworldly backyard, and you had looked around and you had seen all of these like exits, or no, it was, you had remembered all, like, when you'd recalled back to when you had been in his actual backyard, that the feeling had been similar and that there was bleed over. That was what it was. Regardless, what you're experiencing as you look around at something of a panic is that you see the world in a way that you weren't seeing it just a few moments ago. You had previously tried, and with only moderate success, looked for points of access to and from the Fey realm. But in the process of trying to like keep your eye on Red Jack, so to speak, you look around and think there's like a layer of thin mist over the world, and as you look through this mist that isn't there, and that even like when it extends out into the area with the violent wind, the mist is not affected by that. You essentially see a number of like folds, number of like points of contact between the normal world and the Fey realm. And you are reminded of when you've gone through into the fairy realm. So that's one thing that jumps out to you. The other thing is that since in essence you are like looking through fairy vision, so to speak, I will go ahead and confirm both that that the glow sticks with the little friendship charms on them do have a magical component to them that feels warm and safe. You don't get an instruction manual on it, but you do get warm and safe from it. And yeah, so those are the things that are jumping out to you. But the confusing and alarming part is just like, it's not like you look up and suddenly you have this crystal clear view of things. It's
Right.
like popping in and out, in and out, in and out, and like almost staticky, right? And so you'll see something kind of like buzz into view and then disappear. And while it's doing that, there's 10 others that are doing that. So it's all very overwhelming. And you just also just get this strong sense of Red Jack all behind you.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, those are the impressions that you get. And like I said, I'm gonna now jump to Cordelia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have Andy tell her real quick, like, here, like, give this to her and hand her my glow stick. Like, this might calm her down. This might help.
You're saying you're encouraging Cordelia to give it to
I'm
Abby?
gonna give Cordelia the glow stick that my dad gave me,
Mm-hmm.
and tell her to give it to Abby.
Okay. Which is a very natural segue to Cordelia. So Andy has given you this and has, communicated in a roundabout way that there are additional aspects to the glow sticks.
Okay.
So let's do the. I also. I suddenly had this image of, I hadn't asked, but like that turning it into a turn them on roll.
Oh.
Which is also, a way of getting somebody to do what you think they should.
Sure.
So we had talked about you spinning a string or doing a shut them down roll, and now I've, jokingly mentioned turning her on. What's Cordelia's move?
I thought about it, but I don't know how I could really make that work. But yeah, I think I want to use that string towards. I still think I'd shut them down roll.
Okay. All right, let's see how the shut them down roll goes.
Can I do that before I decide to use the string on it?
Yeah.
Oh.
And if the shut them down roll goes poorly, you can either spin the string to add a +1 if it's kind of on the edge, or you can just outright say, I want them to do this. Here's my string.
Oh, okay.
So, and Cordelia has a -1 on cold, right?
Yes.
Ooh, speaking of not going well, that is a 5 on the die with a -1. So you are rolling with a 4.
Yeah. I can just use my string?
Yep. You can spin a string to encourage Abby to do what you think she ought. And I don't have any particularly strong reasons for her to not. So, some of that is up to GM discretion, I think, for NPCs. Sure. For players, the other player goes, yeah, I'll do that. And then they get experience points.
Right.
So.
At least you get an experience point.
Well, do I?
Well,
yeah, because you failed the roll.
Oh, yes, you failed the roll, so you get an experience point.
Still get it. Okay, cool.
Okay. So yeah, you can spend your string on Abby. And what is it that you're telling her?
I mean, just shut the fuck up is what I was going for, but I don't know. Maybe I guess if I get to use a string on her, I should have something better. Is this something that I need to communicate to her, or is it something that she just does because I'm using the string? How does that work?
I can see it going either way. I think usually it's a you know, you communicate it directly to them, but you know, this is a game and a world where, you know, you can stop and gaze into the abyss and have visions. So
Right.
um yeah, uh, I if there's something extra that you want to throw in there, and remember, you are a witch, so it is
Right.
not outside of the realm of possibilities for you to use an you know like low key invocation. Like none of your hexes quite do this, but you know, you can whisper in her mind.
Right. I guess I just kind of wanted to communicate. Uh, where's she at in relation to where we are? Like, are they between her and us, or could she start to move towards Andi and I? Like,
She
would she be stopped from doing that?
um it is like roughly speaking, the Morning Star, or at least Morning Star and her mooks are roughly between the two, between
Okay.
you and Abby. It's not inconceivable. Like
Uh-huh.
a fast acting mook would definitely have a chance to like tackle her along the way, but
Okay. Hmm. Well, I think that I yeah, I mean I'm gonna start Cordelia's gonna start moving towards Abby and communicate, I guess, non-verbally.
mhm.
I mean, it could even just be kind of like a subtle, like just like a look or whatever that like
Sure.
she's moving towards her, and then that she should start like that she should come to us.
Okay.
And I guess it never happened. But
Yeah, so you're effectively like but you are announcing that you're there. Like
yeah,
you still like yell out, Abby, shut the fuck up.
basically,
And then use your body language to say, and come here.
right. Yeah, almost. I would say like in the way that like a parent might, in
Mhm.
a way that's like communicates like, yeah, you need to stop what you're doing and like get the fuck over here.
Sure.
Right,
Sure.
like you're fucking up and
Mom acquaintance mode activated.
right.
Right. Yes. Okay. Excellent. And I will note that one of our players escalating condition for the night has taken full effect. So we are going to end the session very shortly. Uh, oh, so yeah, for the last thing that we'll see at the standoff at Devil's Rock, way I'm picturing it, and if there's anything that either Andi or Cordelia wants to actively infuse into it after I describe this, by all means. But left entirely to my devices, the last scene that we see is Abby recognizing the fact that Cordelia is there, and Elise is a lot slower. Like the fact that somebody is walking up from behind was not expected at all by Elise, whereas you know Abby could probably see you before you started speaking, right?
Right.
So she and also she had fucking sent a text.
She called us back up. So yeah, she I would imagine was kind of checking for us.
She was hoping against hope right?
Okay.
Because in terms of the choices in front of her, like you guys represent a third choice at
Right.
this moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so the camera will capture her seeing Cordelia, and likely the shot would also include Andy in that, unless Andy has a specific reason to not be seen.
No. Andy's trying to stay mostly within reach, although not like wanting to draw too much attention, and also has like a hand in their pocket, like dad, texting the speed like periods on speed dial.
Sure. Okay. All right. So the camera will capture Abby seeing the two of you there and recognizing that the two of you are there, and then with a I mentioned that she had been hoping against hope that she would have a third option, and it's here against all odds in a situation where the stakes really are like higher than life and death.
Yeah.
And the camera will capture her like just starting like as she reads your body language.
Mm-hmm.
The camera then jumps to Elise, who is beginning to turn around to see what the hell's going on, and her mooks are beginning to turn around, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then it jumps back to Abby, who just starts running, and the camera cuts like while she's in midair, like mid stride.
Okay.
And then cuts for the episode.
Nice.
You guys cool with that?
Yeah. Good with me.
All right. And I definitely don't want to go too far into it, given that Frankie could have some contributions to it, but I do want to jump in with maybe a quarter scene. I'm already getting into DM fatigue mode. Colin, in our last scene, we had seen the wards walk in. I think we had left Colin and his father outside. Had you guys gone in?
And with him being like the huntsman and the wolves have, we're here before Tristram and we'll be here after. And I was like, yeah, so is Germany. And then,
right. Yeah.
I'm good.
Sure. So yeah, I want to describe just really briefly. I presume that you then go into the compound.
It's always Germany, and then I open the door.
Yeah. So there is a hallway that is there when you first enter, and you walk down the hallway, and the meeting room is to your left through like a pair of double doors.
Sure.
And the double doors are open. And you're able to clearly see, like, so the last thing that we'll see with that scene is as Colin and his father walk up, all of the hounds and the handful of militiamen that are there are kind of whispering and muttering amongst themselves. Up on stage are the wards with Tristram standing next to them, and Elle up there as well.
Sure.
And they've kind of been waiting. And they all, like, when you walk in front of the door, Tristram looks up at you because he's facing that direction.
Yeah.
And when he looks up, everybody else, like, oh, well, he's paying attention to something, and they turn. By no means in unison. The werewolves are not acting in lockstep, but the muttering does stop, and there is an eerie silence as Caulan and his father stand on the threshold of the meeting room with the.
Sorry.
All right. With the gaunt and hands tied Duke Ward up on stage.
And the only thing, the last thing before cuts to whatever for Colin is just him having he's not what he just standing in a bit of a power pose, like a little bit defiantly. Everyone looks at him and he's like charisma'd up, defiantly looking back at the people with a little bit of a hungry look on his face
Mm-hmm.
at the ward that's tied up.
Sure. And I have a question. I think I might have asked before. I think we had agreed that you had like conditions in basically, when you do something about them. I think we had agreed that your car ride basically got rid of your queasy condition.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Otherwise, I would bring that up at that point.
Right. Otherwise, vomit. That makes sense.
That would be a very dramatic moment to do that. But since you have in fact actively taken care of that, yeah, you stand with that purpose and will and intent.
Yep.
Okay, and then the camera does a hard cut at that point, maybe with some sort of auditory indication, like a da-dum sort of thing, but not quite. I don't know what the sound exactly would be, but
I think the sound should be I think it should go to black, and then half a second later you should hear Linda's character be like, "So who's gonna start?"
Are you cool with Frankie saying that?
Frankie. Yeah, Frankie.
Sure. Sounds about right.
Okay, so yeah, we get a hard cut to black, and then with this like very dramatic Caulan who is hungry and willful and intentful, and everybody's looking at him, including his father. Cut to black, and then this slight socially oblivious Frankie just cuts the tension completely, not in half, but like just slides on it. Cool. Okay. There, I will call that the end of the session for tonight. There is a very high probability that next session is the season finale.
Yay!
Like we have set up 2 conflicts that are climactic enough to qualify for that role.
Yeah.
Both of which are reaching that point of big decision time.
Yep. And we have both a Chekhov's gun and a Chekhov's knife.
Yes,
Yeah.
that we do. Okay, I will stop recording, and it will probably yell at everybody to indicate that.